Welcome back to the Baseball Blue Book podcast. My name is Eric Wobanaw, the president of the Baseball Blue Book, and today we are excited to get this thing going with Coach Ryan Wheeler at St. Joseph University. Coach, how are you today?
I'm great. Great to be
That's
here.
great. Well, hey, it's a busy time of the year. Happy holidays to you and your family, and we really appreciate you taking
Thank you.
the time to talk with me and really what this is all about is getting to know you as a coach. And what we
Sure.
find that our audience really likes is hearing your baseball journey. So it's less about what your how you do things and the program. It's more about you and kind of the journey that you've gone
Sure.
through, and a lot of people can relate because the first time people start going through this recruiting process, they have no idea what to expect. And so it's fun to hear coaches that either have gone through it or put kids through it, right? And you've got a lot of experience for that. So why don't you go ahead and
Yeah.
quickly just do a quick introduction of who you are, real high level of kind of your background, and then we'll get into looking at your journey.
Sure. Um, well, first of all, like I said, I'm glad to be here, and glad that you're taking the time to show interest in me. I don't really like to talk about myself, but I appreciate you giving me the opportunity here. So anyway, I grew up in southeastern Pennsylvania here, a small town outside of Philadelphia. I played my college baseball at Penn State University. Was fortunate enough to be selected in the 31st round by the California Angels at that time, where I played a couple seasons of minor league baseball and really, didn't amount to much. From there, I had no intention of getting into coaching. What I graduated with a degree in from Penn State, I wanted to design and build golf
Oh,
courses,
awesome.
and I happened to take a job in Williamsburg, Virginia, and I knew the head coach and the assistant coach from there. And while I was down on this interview, I went to dinner with them, and they said, look, if you get this job, we could use some help. Maybe you could come be a volunteer. And that started my journey in coaching. And I began at William and Mary, the College of William and Mary. Spent 9 seasons there. I had a brief 1 year stop at the University of Pennsylvania, 5 years at the University of Richmond, and then I took the head coaching job at Temple University. And unfortunately, Temple eliminated their program, and I jumped across the city here to Hawk Hill, and have been at St. Joseph's University. This is my 9th season with them. So a lot of trips up and down Interstate 95 between Virginia and Pennsylvania.
95, just to get into that, 95 is not a good interstate either. I've been on that quite a bit. It's scary, it's fast,
No,
it's
no.
it needs living in that
And
area.
there's never a good time to avoid traffic.
I don't feel for you at all, or I do feel for you with that drive.
Yeah.
So, pretty interesting. So you obviously were pretty darn good at baseball, being able to be drafted, and you say, hey, a small stint and didn't do much, but hey, you know what? If you look at the percentages of kids that are able to make it, that's you fall into to less than 1% of the players that are able
Sure.
to experience that. And that's awesome. We always talk about kind of or give you the opportunity to talk about the differences between then and now. Obviously, they're huge. So
Oh,
just from a couple of things, what was the difference from when you went through it and what you're putting kids through today as far as the recruiting and finding a place to play?
oh, you're right. In case people can't tell from my gray hair, I've been around for a while. So, there's been quite a lot of changes. I mean, you know, first and foremost, the technology today just has made the world a smaller place. And all this pay for play or travel baseball did not exist. So, I spent a lot of time with my friends going out to play outside of American Legion baseball
Yep.
or whatever, Connie Mack, which was what it was called here at the younger levels. Um, you know, it wasn't as organized as it is now, and I just had a passion for for playing the game. I enjoyed going out and throwing the ball against the wall, and that's how I got better. and then my friends would come around. Okay, we would play. But anyway, it's very organized now, very structured. If I'm riding down the road and I see kids out playing baseball on their own, a group of three or four
Right.
of them, I almost want to stop and recruit them because it's like, you guys don't exist. What are you doing?
That's a really good point.
Uh,
That's good. That's good.
yeah. So, I think now, and there's so much more information out there about this recruiting process. When I went through it, had no idea, what we were doing. My high school coach offered to write a couple letters to some schools for me to get me on the radar
Yeah.
screen. We picked out a few schools locally, and Penn State, was one of them, although it was about 3 hours from my house. But anyway, um, I didn't commit to Penn State until the spring of my senior year. They came down to watch me play in a high school game. I made a couple nice plays in the game. I had a base hit. It was like a big deal. The coach talked to me behind the bus, while the rest of because it was an away
Yeah.
game, and and then they called me on the phone and said to come up for a visit, and I did, and I had fallen in love with Penn State. Prior to that, I had gone up there to visit, and but never in a million years did I think I was going to wind up
Right.
there. But anyway, the process just took a lot longer to unfold, and as I said, now when a young man commits to a school in the spring of their senior year, it's that people look at him and say, "Well, boy, what's wrong with you? What are you waiting so long
Yeah.
for?" Because of how early kids are committing. So, those are just, I think, some of the bigger things right now, like the speed at which this process can unfold for kids, is unbelievable.
It,
So
no, it, it's a great point. I mean, I love what you said is of being able to, or you wanting to stop and just recruit them because you don't see kids doing that. I hear that all of the time, right? It's the love of the game,
yeah,
the passion of the game. Do you see that because of the speed of it, the recruiting process has changed, the organization and structure of it? Do you find that the love of the game is missing, or are the kids that really want to play and that you're finding that are having success at the collegiate level? Do they have it, or is that something that's missing?
that's a great question. You know, I'm sure in our generation, people that were, older at that time thought things were changing for us and it was different.
Good,
And
good point.
they probably, it's not like it used to be. So I don't want to sound like one of those guys that's older now. It's changed. But, I think kids still enjoy playing the game. May, the, the reasons may be a little bit different. You know, I idolized those guys on
Right.
TV, growing up. You didn't know as much about them. It was kind of a mystery, the world that they lived in, and you either had to read stuff in the newspaper or whatever you saw on TV or the news is what you found out about them. Now, we know every time one of those guys gets a cup of
Yep.
coffee. And so I guess my point is, that I think the kids today, just the priorities of why they want to play and get to that level, might be a little bit
Mhm.
different. But I still want to believe that they love to play the game. And we're trying to find those
Yeah,
kids.
does it come across when you know kids that really love the game versus that are just good at the game?
Well, I believe that coaches recruit kids that are similar to them in their personality. I really do. And as I'm going through the process and trying to make a connection, I'm still a big believer in
Yep.
relationships. I think that is a huge part of this process, because if we're going to spend 4 years together, we need to have a good relationship where we can talk and communicate and trust each other. So, for me, there's a conflict between how fast the process
Yep.
moves and building relationships. That time is not always there to do that, and um, because decisions have to be made.
Yep.
If I hold up the process on my end, well, somebody else is going to come along, and that kid may go. And I think where I've gone with it is, okay, that's fine. If he decides to commit somewhere, then it wasn't the right
Yeah.
decision for me, and ultimately, or for our program, and ultimately, I think I wind up with kids that have this sort of the same core values and principles that we have at St. Joe's, and so it's worked out. Do we get them all
Yeah,
right? No, we don't. But for the most part, we have a lot of great kids at St. Joe's,
that's
and
great.
I'm excited to
That's
work with
great.
them every
Now,
day.
I just find it very interesting, kind of the dynamics. Everything changes. You had made your point was well received when you said, when we were younger, the old guys were saying, oh, it was so different back then, and every generation it kind of goes through
Yeah,
the same thing. What I see is there was such a shift into the focus of building the game as far as training. Right, training became a huge with the travel
yeah,
teams and the training facilities. A training facility,
yeah,
even in the 90s, was the batting cages, just the local batting cages that, it had
sure,
golf carts and you didn't have a full on training
yeah,
facility that was dedicated and had former Major League Baseball players there. But you brought up a
right,
really good point of it is about relationship. And I would imagine that when you have this selection of kids, because I'll tell you what, one thing that I do believe is the level of talent is it might not the high level isn't any higher, but the amount of people at the higher level seems like that it's more than it ever has been. I mean, talk about that versus what it was. I mean, are you seeing more talented kids and you're having to weed through of finding ones that are better fit, or are we still struggling to find the kids that really understand the game and are good enough to play at that next level?
okay, I'm going to answer this question, and I may, some of these travel programs may not necessarily like me, so I'll try to be as politically correct as I possibly can. Um, there certainly are a lot of high-end, high level players, and I do think that advancements in training and technology have allowed us to, be able to develop those players better. Uh, but I do think that there could be more training going on for the
Okay.
masses, so to speak. When the academies get those good players, they're really going to harness their talent and advance them. Um, I get disappointed at times with how some of the other players, are being developed. Let's just put it this way: it's about money right now, the almighty dollar, and I'm not criticizing these teams for what they're doing or what's going on. Um, I would say this: 20 years ago when I started coaching, there were your lower end players, and there were a lot of kids in between that had skills, and you're like, wow, you know what? This guy can really do this or do that. There were a lot of tricky decisions to try to make.
Yeah.
Now I feel like there's the high end, and there's the low end, and kids that probably aren't going to get a chance to move on much beyond high school, and that in between gap is really missing. Those in between kids
Okay.
are missing. Now that's just my perspective, and um, that's what I see when I go out. It's I used to be, boy, there's like three or four guys on the field here that, boy, I kind of like this guy. He can run, he can do this, he can do that.
Right.
Clearly okay, that guy's the good one. Yeah, okay, I'm not crazy about these, but there's this in between. Now it's, yep, there's the good players. Nope, there's the bad ones. Where's
Interesting.
where's the in between guys?
Interesting.
So that's just my perspective.
That is interesting because what it does is those in between guys are the ones that you look at and potentially would see the potential, right? And college is so much about the development, and that's what we're going to get into the Joseph's and kind of what your mission and what your philosophy is. But yeah, the void of those kids that you can see going, oh man, I see something special, and that's what you're saying is kind of missing because you're either they've either moved on with the travel ball or whatever it is, and that the high school is kind of
I
yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I think they're more spread out.
Okay.
I think there's a lot more travel teams. Each year it seems like there's a new one or a new group that's coming along. And I would say just in southeastern Pennsylvania here, when this travel stuff really started to take off, there was one, maybe two teams, but there was one team that encompassed the four big counties here, and the better players all went. So I knew if when I was coming here to recruit, if I saw that team, I would probably see the best players in southeastern Pennsylvania. Now there's probably 20 teams in the area, and so all those players are spread out. So maybe it wasn't fair for me to say that in between group isn't there. It's just they're spread out, and I can't see them because I can't cover,
That's interesting.
you know, all those. I mean, I do cover them here, but they're spread out.
Well,
Imagine this area just across the country;
right.
they're all spread out. So you only have so much time to go recruit.
That's a really good point, because when travel ball first came onto the scene, all the good guys were consolidated, like you said. Now it just, because of the proliferation of the travel ball, those good players may not all fall onto one team. They may be spread out, and so now that makes a lot of sense. Right. Let's go back to your journey. So you started William and Mary, right?
Yep. College of William and Mary.
What were some of the things that you took from that stint? Probably some good mentors, some good coaches that you learned under. Talk about that a little bit, and then how the next couple steps in your career.
Sure. Well, I would say, the two gentlemen at the College of William and Mary, the head coach was a guy named Jim Farr, who grew up in northern Pennsylvania, above Scranton, actually, and was a Penn State grad. He was the head coach, and then the other assistant was John Cole, who, grew up in Coopersburg, and him and I are closer in age. So knowing both of them, helped me get into the business, but they taught me, really, they set the foundation for me. They taught me how to work. They taught me how to recruit. They taught me, what's the day-to-day grind of what coaches actually do. Everybody thinks that we just, we get the balls and the bats out. We show up in our car, practice at 3:00. We show up at 2:45. We get all the equipment out.
Right.
We have a practice, and then 5:30 we're done. But it's so much more than that. From how to run camps, how to order equipment, how to set up the team travel, how to take care of a field, how to do the laundry. I mean, you name it, fundraising. I mean, I learned probably all the ins and outs of the business from my time there, and it was great. I mean, Jim was I won't say he was tough at the time I thought he was tough to work for, but he really showed me how to work and how to grind. And of course, I had another full-time job on top of that, but the luxury was I wasn't married, so I really didn't have a responsibility. So I would leave, my one job, go to the next,
Right.
Or go over to coach, and it just allowed me to really lay the foundation for the rest of my career.
Just looking back, and reminiscing about kind of what your responsibilities were at that time. Compare and contrast what you're doing today. Has the coaching side also changed considerably, or is it really kind of the same thing, with maybe specialties are added in there? What I've seen, and then I'll let you talk, but I've seen a lot of college programs constantly move into what the major league programs are, right? You're dedicated to one thing versus kind of overseeing a lot of things. Talk about the differences.
Yeah. No, you're pardon me. You're right, in that resources within the game have become greater. As college at the Division I level, college baseball coaches, we continue to push the envelope to try to get more for our programs, and so the evolution has been more resources have been allocated to college baseball, but that's mainly at the Power 5 level, where they have the money and stuff to be able to allocate those resources. It is trickled down to the mid-major level and to levels, below that, but, there's still, we still wear a lot of hats at our level. We're still, helping with ordering the equipment, or helping to do the laundry, or, all of those types of things. We have some people that help us with that, where, 20 years ago, you were literally if you wanted it, you were all of those things, and there was no help. You either figured out how to get it done, or it didn't get done.
I think that's usually a
So
good
yeah,
that's a good thing, right? I mean, I look at it from a business perspective. I do a lot of comparing with baseball. I always think of the head coach as the CEO. And sometimes,
absolutely
right? And sometimes the CEO has to clean the toilets because it's a small business, right? They don't have the
right.
resources. As you get bigger, you bring people in so you can focus. With your position now and kind of the transition, because you're associate head coach,
Mhm.
are you spending as much time as you would like doing the baseball stuff, or does it seem like it's a little bit more of everything else, and then you're excited to get on that field and maybe hit balls or pick up the do the things that you used to
Yeah,
really love that got you to love the game?
yeah. I don't know if it's more or less. I mean, I I don't know. It's a tough. Pardon me. Tough question to answer. I mean, I do get enough time on the field with the kids. I guess so for example, technology has made a big influence into the game,
Yeah.
and the ability to use some of these tools. I don't have as much time to dive into them and pull the information that I need to pull to then be able to take it back to the kids,
Right.
because I'm still doing some of these other things. I think the time on the field is probably the same, but the stuff away from the field and the tools that we have now to help with their development, that's where I seem to struggle and not have enough time to then be able to, like I said, go back to them
Right.
and all right, I watched your film and I saw all the metrics stuff that we've gathered here, and here, here's what the numbers are, but here's how we're going to take these numbers and make you
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
That's where we could use more people to kind of crunch numbers and pull that information and all that stuff to be able to help me with the development plan.
Isn't it funny how technology is supposed to make your life easier, and all it's done is it
Right.
exposes the things that you weren't doing before that you could be
Yeah.
doing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would say one of the biggest differences in coaching has been 20 years ago. You, I don't want to say kids respected you more, but just like with me, when a coach told me to do something, I didn't say, well, why?
Yeah.
He said to do it. This is the way we're supposed to do it. So let's go do it. And it was that way when I first got into coaching. Now you got to be able to answer why to these kids, because if you don't, they're going to go home, or they could leave the field and Google it on their
Right.
phone. Why did coach tell me to put my hands in this position for hitting, or this way for fielding? And they can find, five other ways to do it. And now all of a sudden I don't want to say your credibility, but the trust, the relationship with them, could be damaged. So you've got to be able to answer why, because they can find out why.
That is really, really that's insightful. It really is. Because I mean, I haven't even gone down that before with any other coach, because they've got 500 other coaches that they could reference like that. And
Sure.
and you said about the trust and the respect, and not that they don't, but yeah, but
Right.
if you can't answer why, and it doesn't have to be baseball there's a lot of subjectivity in it, right? It's not that
Sure.
only one way of doing it. So your why has to just be of why you believe that it's good for them. I think that's really important.
Correct.
Yep. Let me ask you this.
Correct.
So, go
I
ahead.
wouldn't say you're constantly. Go ahead.
No, no, no.
No, no, no. Go
I
ahead.
interrupted you. I was going to move on, and you were about to say something.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say it's not like I have to go out every day and constantly sell the players on what we're going to do. However, you've got to have that buy-in, for whatever it is. And I think once again that goes back to the recruiting process, and that relationship that you build with them, and talking about just a lot of different things, so that I get a feel for them as to what they believe in, and how they operate, but they also get a feel for me during this process. I tell kids all the time, you're learning just as much about me as I'm learning about you. And this needs to be a two-way street. So, if you have those right kids, then the buy-in or the sell is not as difficult each day.
No, that's a great point. One question that we'd like to ask is, there's 100 ways of answering it, so I'll let you kind of interpret it the way you would like. But the question is really, what can a player do to get your attention or the attention of St. Joseph's program, and then also getting a chance to make a spot? What are some things that really stand out for you and when you're looking for players that want to play for your organization?
Sure. So I really, for us at St. Joe's, it comes down to two big things. You've got to have some talent and ability, and you've got to have good character and makeup. Those are really the two big driving factors for us, because you can be the most talented player in the world, but if you're not a good person, or don't have good character and makeup, and you're selfish, that's not going to be the right formula. And you can be the nicest kid in the world, in class president, involved in the community, but the ability level's just not there. That's just not going to work either. So that combination is what we look for. When I go out, the physical tools, they're the easiest for me to see first and identify to keep a guy on the list or eliminate him, so to speak. Clearly I'm going to look, we get there early. We're going to look at how they come onto the field, how they get off the bus or come out of the locker room, how they're dressed in their uniform, how they present themselves. Do they talk to their teammates? Yeah. Just watching all their actions that way. But then, we'll watch them warm up and go through pregame and play. And, I'm looking at their overall skill set, their general movement patterns, things like that. We would like for them to have, of the 5 tools that pro scouts use to evaluate, players and grade players out, we would like for one of those tools to be a plus tool.
Okay.
You can really run, hit, throw, whatever it may be. And we'd like for, 1 or 2 of the other tools to be tools that project to be a plus tool or above average. Okay. At some point down the road, so from the physical side, that's what we're going to look for. Then if they pass those tests, okay, now we need to dive into who are they? What kind of person are they? And once again, like I said, we want to see, we're going to try to investigate because we believe actions speak louder than words. Kids will, they've been coached on what to say and how to say it to us. Right. If they truly believe that, their actions will back it up. So honestly, when we go see kids play, I want to see them fail. I want to see, because it's a game of failure. Yep. We all know that. They're going to come onto our campus and they're going to fail. How do they handle that? And that will say a lot about their character and their makeup. So, we move past that, and then we get into, like I said, trying to really learn through phone calls and conversations, on campus visits. If I sense that it's not going right or this isn't a kid for us, then, we just kind of move on to the next one. And if it is, then, we hope that this is where they want to be, and everything lines up. So that's sort of a broad overview and kind of how we go about it.
I think that was perfect, Coach. And I really appreciate you sharing that, because one of the things that I didn't hear, and I bet you people might be a little bit surprised, I didn't hear any of the analytics. I didn't hear any of the new technology. You're not looking for a specific pop speed or pop time or launch angle or exit velo. It was really, and that's where the observation of baseball to me is never going away. I always, and this is my 2 cents, you tell me if you agree or disagree. I see the new technology as just a confirmation of what you know or don't know with experience.
You're exactly right. I mean, I can tell when a guy is throwing 90 miles an hour, or 90, now it might be 93 or 94. Right. Like I can see that. Yep. and I can guess pretty close. So he's throwing 92, and then I check the radar gun. Oh, it was 93. Okay, I was off a mile per hour, but it's still coming out pretty good.
Yep.
The principles of the game have not changed as far as, you as a pitcher, you need to throw strikes, you need to get outs.
Yep.
Defenders need to be able to field, catch the ball and throw the ball, and the hitters need to be able to put the ball in play, and whether you are looking for contact or power guys. So those basic principles haven't changed regardless of the metrics. So we're going to look and see them. I mean, really, up until the last probably 4 or 5 years, we didn't have the metrics at the high school level. We were starting to get them at the college level, but when we went out and recruited, we had a radar gun, we had a stopwatch.
Yep.
But now the high schools and the travel organizations are starting to get all this technology, but still, like you said, those metrics sort of confirm what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And then there's times where, I didn't think he ran really well, and then you check, or the ball didn't come off his bat like I thought it would, and but it was an exit velocity of 94.
Right.
Oh, okay, maybe I got to go recalibrate my eyes or something. So
no, it's gotta be tough. I mean, as a coach today, especially the ones that have been doing it for a while, it's those the analytics and the statistic can be deceiving at times. What I like about it, and what I see the real value is, it allows you to focus on maybe some areas that you really want to work on. To me, if a player in high school is using these analytics to tout who they are, I think they're doing it in the wrong way. I think it has to be used as a learning tool more than a, more than a podium type thing to say, hey, look at me. Again, that's just my own opinion.
Right. And just to go back to, when we, I think, first started the conversation, what has changed in the 25 years, these players are now their own entities. They're their own little corporations, and it's about selling themselves to us. And, then they come and play for us, and we say, okay, that little entity now, it's no more. Now you're part of the team, and you've got to blend in with the team. And so, 25 years ago, it was about the team.
Right.
You represented your little town for baseball, whether it was your high school, American Legion, whatever. You were proud to play for them, proud to play with your buddies.
Yep.
And we did this. It wasn't me.
Yep.
So
Coach, that we could do an entire topic on that alone, because I bring that up all the time. It's like we're basically forcing kids to create their own entity, like you said, and promote themselves. And travel ball hasn't helped, because there's times when it's a quote unquote free agents market out there at the travel ball, right? The kids are flying down to Florida to pitch for a weekend for a team they don't know anybody about, but they're doing it to get their 10 innings in or whatever, and get some highlights and get seen by certain people. And then all of a sudden you're going to college, and it's like, hey guys, you forgot what the whole idea of what a team sport is. I see that a real challenge.
Yeah, no, it is. And once again, trying to sift through that in this process is what we try to do.
That's good.
And once again, I would probably lose out on some players because I don't necessarily move maybe at the same pace that everybody else does. But look, in this world now where either we make a mistake on our end or the kids make a mistake and make the wrong decision on the school to go to, well, you know what? We'll just jump in the transfer portal and we'll go to another school and we'll try it there. And so it doesn't really lead to any accountability on either side, because it's just a rush to get these commitments, get these kids. Oh, I saw him pretty good. I like him. Yeah, let's go. Let's get him.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
that's the part I don't like.
Just another topic as well, right? The transfer portal and what it's done, because I was talking with a coach the other day about that, and one of the things that and we've lost it. Baseball is like you mentioned it. Baseball is a game of failure. And what that means is adversity.
Yeah.
And when adversity hits, how do you respond to adversity? It's not change sports. It's not say I can't hit a curveball. So maybe I go find something else. And I see a lot of correlations with that with the transfer portal. Well, hey, I don't like how the coach did this, or I didn't get my playing time or whatever. I'm going to go find another. That's not how we should be dealing with adversity, especially at this level. There's something to be said about going through it. Now, there's always times that you picked the wrong thing, you committed too early. You didn't do your homework, and I think that's one of the things that I love about this, and it's a good transition to what my next question is what is special about your school and your program, and what makes it outside of just the baseball specifics makes your program special as well as unique? Because back to the fit of what these kids are looking for, there's a lot of it that falls outside of what's going on between the lines. Most of it's outside the lines. Most of it, Todd Meckley always says it. He goes, do you like the cafeteria? Do you like the food? Do you like where it is, rural versus urban? Do you like the atmosphere? There's so many things that I think these kids are not even looking at. They see the name or a big name coach or something like that, and they only make their decision based on one or two factors.
Right. No, that is exactly right. It's the name of the coach or what the field looks like, the uniforms, how many different uniforms you have. That's what they're making the decisions on, instead of trying to find out what the rest of the university community is about and the school's like. But I would say, for myself and Coach Hamburg, Fritz Hamburg, who's our head coach, what's still important to us and why we like St. Joe's and are going to stay here or be here is because it's still a family type atmosphere and campus. We're 4,500 students. We just merged with another smaller school, so enrollment's a little bit higher, so maybe 5,000, 5,500. So it's still a small school. I've been on big campuses where there's 5 different jobs and there's one person that does each one of those jobs. At St. Joe's, there's 5 jobs and there's one person that does all 5 of those jobs. So you know a lot of people on campus. You get to know them just because of the different things that they do, and we take that onto our team. I mean, these kids and players are an extension of my family. I spend as much time with them, maybe more so than my own kids. And we want families to recognize that when mom and dad, when you're dropping your son off to play for us, we're going to look out for him for the next 4 years. We're going to take the reins from you.
That's great.
Now, we're not going to come over and check to make sure they make their bed or they've eaten lunch or those sort of things.
Right.
When they fall down, we're going to pick them up. We're going to be there for them, but they're going to grow and experience things as a person. And so hopefully by the time they leave, they're not only better baseball players, but they're better men, and they're able to stand, on their own.
Absolutely.
We make mistakes. We make mistakes in the recruiting process, but we don't get rid of guys because we've maybe made a mistake. We continue to try to find ways to work with that young man to get something out of him, and to make him a contributor to the program, whatever way it may be. That's maybe something that's going to work against us in this world of, well, we made a mistake, we'll get rid of him, we'll go find somebody else, because it's what we see. Basically what we say to fans, look, we make a commitment to you, this is a 4-year commitment.
Right.
Now, unless you do something really crazy, but if you don't perform how we think you're going to perform or how you want to perform, that doesn't mean we're just going to get rid of you. We're going to keep you here because we want to see you get a degree from St. Joe's, graduate and be able to move on to whatever else it is you're going to do in life. So I think that and hope that is refreshing for families to hear, and what makes us a little bit different. And look, people can go and check our record on the transfer portal.
There you go.
We don't have guys on the portal. We're not shifting guys in there. Check our roster. You see a guy there as a freshman, he's there by the time he's a senior. He's come all the way through. So
That's
I
unique.
think that's probably the biggest.
Yeah, Coach, that is that. I really appreciate you sharing that, because one of the things that you're hearing a lot, and we just had a Q&A for parents, and we had a special guest on the other night. He was a parent, and he said, you guys, you have players, you have your sons that want to go play for a school, and they want to play, right? They want to play in their freshman year. Just go look at the rosters. A lot of these schools, you're not playing. You're not on the roster. And I think you bring up a really good point. There's some research you can do out there. You can do some things up front, and take a look at what is your objective of this. Is it, if it's to play right away, man, that you got to, there's enough information out there that can help you determine what makes sense. And I loved what you said. We're here for the long haul. It's not a 4-year commitment; it's a 40-year commitment. I love that. I don't know who gave me that, but it really, you're looking for alumni. You're looking for building a family, and baseball is part of that. It's not the only thing.
Correct. That's correct. And we will tell young men, you're going to have the opportunity to come in here and get playing time as a freshman. And if you're the best player for that position, we don't care if you're a freshman, sophomore, whatever. The years go out the window. Once you hit campus, the years go out the window.
Okay.
It's about putting the best 9 guys on the field. And that's something that we see, day after day, and how they're going about things. That's not just, this guy was, boy, he had a lot of accolades in high school. He's the next coming player. Pick one.
Right.
They still have to come here and perform it. And that's the one piece in all of this that I don't know that I will ever figure out, is the adjustment from high school to college, not just on the baseball field, but just for life, because it's a big transition. Move. And whether the kids grew up 2 miles from campus or 200 miles, there's still that adjustment. There's that growing up piece, that maturity that needs to happen. And every year there's kids that I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go. I'm going to have to really watch them. And they seem fine. And then the guys that I think, this guy, he's going to be okay over here. They're the ones that tend to need a little bit more nurturing and looking after. So that part there, I don't have a formula. I just don't know until they get there and they start.
That's called experience, right, Coach? It's just you've gone through it. You've gone through it. You kind of understand. It's back to the technology. Technology can't determine, the personalities and how people respond. I know Elon's always working on his AI, and then someday we're going to have the ability to put a bunch of stuff into the computer and it's going to spit out everything we need. I don't think that'll ever happen, but
right. No, you're right. You're right. You can't measure, technology can't measure heart, and that, like you say, character and personality. So yeah,
that's really good, Coach. It's been a lot of fun. This has been it's been a privilege, an honor to talk to you, kind of highlight your program, get to know you and your background. We didn't probably get into as much as I thought we would, but that's good. That it meant that we had some good topics to focus on. So I appreciate that.
Sure. And I'd be more than happy to come back in another time and talk about those other things. I mean, I've enjoyed this. It's been great, and I appreciate you taking the time to show interest in not only me but our program, and so I'm really glad.
Well, hey, it's been a lot of fun. I encourage everybody to listen. Make sure to check out Ryan Wheeler at St. Joseph University. Download the app, Baseball Blue Book app. You can search the directory, find their information. And I believe Coach Wheeler will be in the Blue Book. Hopefully, if he builds a profile, you can check him out. And we're just excited to promote the game of baseball. And I'm never disappointed with the level of, I think it's the care. It's the baseball coaches care. There is a huge level of how much they care about the players and making sure that they're doing what needs to be done to raise the next generation of men. And that's one thing that I will always be thankful for these coaches.
If I can just say one more thing before you wrap it up here, The last few years, we've been through a lot. I mean, nobody ever predicted a global pandemic would hit us, and it was a very different time. Um, as a baseball coach who spends the spring and the summer and the fall just running around crazy, constantly doing baseball, it was very strange for me to be sitting at my house. And I tell people this, all the time, in that I didn't miss the games. I've been involved in enough baseball games to where I wasn't missing on the field. What I missed was the players. I missed being around the
Yeah.
players. As I get older, they still keep me young, but just the relationships, being able to help them, or as you said, the care, um, you know, that's what we care about. I'm sure you've heard this from other coaches. We're not doing this for the money. We're not
Yeah.
getting rich. I'll probably never be able to retire because I just don't.
Right.
It's not why I'm doing this. It's for the love of the game and the players on the field. So I just wanted to throw that in because I know we've all been through a lot, but COVID was difficult, and it gave me an opportunity to how do I want to say it? Not prioritize, but just to think like, gosh, it's not always about winning and advancing
Yep.
your career
Yep.
and so on and so forth. That's not how people are going to judge you. The impact that you make with these guys and how you've helped them, that. So
100%.
when you said that, I just wanted to add that in. So anyway,
No, 100%. You know what?
I'll stop.
It's why I have so much more faith in the next generation. It's because of athletics. All kind of culture has changed. It's night and day in in the last decade. But one of the constants, to steal a quote right from Field of Dreams, right? The constant is baseball. But there's a consistency. You still have to play it the right way. There's still ways of doing it the right way, and culture be damned. Baseball hasn't changed.
Right, that's right. No, you're exactly right. That's
Coach,
good
thank
stuff.
you very much, and look forward to watching your program. And we'll be putting this out on the social platforms. And so we just ask that you do your side and your share of forwarding and sharing it to the people and your players. One of the things I love is it seems like a lot of the players really enjoy listening to their coach, kind of a different side of them on these episodes. So thank you very much, sir.
Sure. All right.